Lá tem cena até de manhã, uma giga em cada andar. O meu lugar é cercado de luto e suor, esperança num mundo melhor e cerveja pra comemorar. O meu lugar tem seus mitos e seres de luz, é bem perto de Oswaldo Cruz, Cascadura da João Pirajá. O meu lugar é sorriso, é paz e prazer. O seu nome é doce dizer, Madureira. O meu lugar é caminho de autoiação, atenção até de manhã, uma ginga em cada. Welcome to another Aspire Beast Council. I'm your host, Charles Clark, here with another bright idea. Welcome. Thank you again for joining. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Next Home My Way, real estate brokerage here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in southeastern Wisconsin. I want to thank them for allowing me to host this Aspire Beast Council webinar here in their headquarters, in their social media room. Always looking for young, bright, and successful agents that want to join this amazing organization that I am a part of, which Raise the Standard Real Estate is my team that I have here at Next Home My Way. So just always want to give a big shout out to Jose, Angel, and Carlos, part of the leadership team here. I am also part of the leadership, director of agent development at Next Home My Way. So self-plug, but always want to give thanks to individuals and organization that supports you and giving you the tools to adapt to this new changing market, right? This new economy where, you know, as a real estate broker, real estate investment broker, you have to create content, you have to put yourself out there in things of this nature. But with that being said, here for the Aspire Beast Council. So just to give you a little background, Aspire is the investor mastermind ecosystem that was created with a group of other individuals and other investors that I have partnered with. And we recognize that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, different investor meetup groups, but we wanted to provide something in our local market that we felt like wasn't here. And so the Aspire Beast Council has different resources that we can take advantage of. And I'm actually going to show, hold on one second. I want to show y'all what we're doing with Aspire. We are definitely doing different things to, oops, sorry about that. I'm trying to do some different things here. So obviously this is a school that we have. We have a classroom. So we're not just trying to be an investor meetup group where individuals just come, you know, talk about real estate and just exchange, you know, pleasantries, you know, drinks of that nature. We are an actual ecosystem. That's how I look at it. Aspire is not just a social meetup group. It's not a business that's providing, tools and resources for you. I believe it's a whole ecosystem. Obviously, me being a real estate investment broker, I feel like I'm in the middle of all investors because you need to transact to become an investor, right? If you don't have an investment property, you're not an investor. You're just someone researching investor information and knowledge. And until you make that transaction, you're not an investor. So I felt like being a broker, there was a gap in the market. A lot of individuals, what I want to say, a lot of individuals don't necessarily, uh, in my profession, I feel like a lot of real estate agents and brokers don't focus on investors. As my motto presents itself as, I don't help you buy a property, I help you buy a business. It just so happens to be a property. Let me get my light in here. And with that being said, that is why I wanted to team up with Aspire and create this ecosystem, uh, due to the fact that most agents or brokers, when they're dealing with an investor, as soon as they close, they do the after sale and make sure that everything's taken care of, and then they kind of go on to their next client and look for maybe referrals from that investor client. However, I look at it different because you're creating a business, and more than likely, if you're trying to be an investor and you're trying to create financial freedom, you are not just focused on trying to do one deal, right? You're trying to do multiple deals, and you're trying to you bought a business, and that's the approach that I have with my clients. Is the transaction is just the beginning, right? Obviously, what we're doing here today is deal analysis, and that starts everything. Everything really starts when you close on that deal, and now you have to get things set up where leases, you have to make sure, if you're doing a value add, you got to have contractors and all those things, and then signing leases with your new tenants, and then if you're doing a value add, you want to pull that money back out and go get the next deal. So I look at it from a standpoint of, let me help my client get through that process sooner, because then they're going to end up buying. And so I don't go after your typical real estate retail clients, because I've always looked at it, if someone buys their home, I won't see them for the next 5 to 7 years. My hope is that they refer someone to me so that I can keep my business going. That's what most agents do in this when they're helping someone buy their home. I look at it, hey, if I help this investor, and if everything goes accordingly to the business plan that we set up, they're going to be refinancing hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months, and then they're going to get that money, and then they're going to be looking at another deal. So my goal has always been to try to get my client to get 2 to 3 properties in a year. One of my favorite clients, Jonas, he did that last year. And I had another client, I just called Jonas out because we actually did an interview together. But I had a few clients last year that closed on multiple deals. And so that's the mindset that I have for my clients, and what I want my clients to have for themselves. And that is what Aspire brings as well. It's creating an ecosystem for those investors that can accelerate and scale at a pace that is satisfying to them, right? You can do 10, 20 flips in 1 year. Well, those are my ideal clients, right? Those are the clients that are going to be doing multiple deals, right? Because if you do one deal, one flip, that's 2 transactions. So that's also why I try to work with other real estate agents and other agents who might not have an identity, but know they want to be in investments and maybe want to, live in that world, but don't understand that language, or don't understand how to formulate, how to interact with those type of clients, right? So again, here's the Aspire like classroom. Like I said, we have different levels. We have, as you see, the Beast Council. We have different levels, and we name them in different beast names. So Lion is the top, the first level. then we go to Bull, then we go to Dragon, and then the very top level is Phoenix. And as you can see, we also have education on teaching agents on how to become investor agents. Um, and then we have different programs where, like I said, we offer the 90-day program. And the 90-day program basically helps clients get through from, day zero to actually closing. So the results of the 90-day program is you will either have a business plan on how to complete your first transaction. And the only reason why you can't is because you don't have the capital or you can't get pre-approved. The second result is you have an accepted offer. And typically, because we're going through this process, you are going to analyze deals in those 90 days. And so the first 30 to 45 days, you could analyze deals and figure it out and put everything together so that you can actually get a deal accepted. Because part of the 90-day, we will be running numbers. We will be going out to properties. And so part of the first week, we ask you to go to a lender to get pre-approved. So if all those things work out, by the end of the 90 days, you should have an accepted offer. And then the final result that you should have out of the 90 days is that you actually close, right? Because you were already pre-approved or you got pre-approved right away. You found a property within 30 to 45 days, you can get closed. And then that we're basically moving forward and getting you working on that value add aspect of the deal, if that's the way you want to go. And typically, I want to say majority of the people we work with do the value add, because that's how you recycle your money, and then that's how you keep things moving forward, and that's how you keep recycling that capital, right? That's the key of this when you're dealing with real estate investing, is that you're trying to scale, and the only way you can really truly scale is always using other people's money, right? And part of that is getting into your deal, fixing it up, force appreciation, then going to a bank or a lender and pulling that money back out so you can go get the next one, right? So that's what we're trying to do with this classroom, and offer these different type of services to you so that you have an understanding and an ability to run a real estate investment business. Because that's, at the end of the day, that is what I am doing with my clients, is that I am teaching them how to run a real estate investment business. Day one, soon we close on that duplex, you didn't buy a duplex, you bought a business. It just happens to be a duplex, right? And because that first day, you're either getting a rental check. I got a client last month. Big shout out to Jamal. He closed on a duplex and he had tenants already in it. He also had a down payment assistance. He closed with no money down and also walked away with a check. So those are the things, right? He bought a business, right? He already had customers, and now he needs to understand how to run a successful business so that he can grow his business, right? That's the difference between someone who just bought a house and wants to move in it, and that's it, right? Now to me, that's a liability, right? Because they bought a property and now they're losing money every month. Where my client bought a property and he's collecting rent. Now he might still need to put cash into it, right? Because he's house hacking, but now he doesn't have to put that much in, but he's still receiving cash, right? So he's just offsetting. But so one of the things that I tell a lot of my clients is you should try to save half of what your tenants are giving you. So in this situation, let's just say he's getting $1,000 a month from his tenants. He should try to save half of that. So at the end of 12 months, he should have $6,000 put away for him to go get the next deal. And those are some of the things that I try to bring to the table, and mindsets, right? Because I think it's a mindset shift that I really do a lot of with my clients, is that I'm trying to get them to understand that they're not buying a property, they're buying a business, because that is some of the struggles they go through. I think a lot of clients end up buying a property and they start treating it like a hobby, right? And they get kind of a little bit overwhelmed, but they also get very excited, like, hey, I got this thing and now I'm on that, the gravy train of building wealth, and they don't initially do all the things they need to do to keep growing, right? I had a consultation with a customer who, wanted to kind of come to me for advice and help them with their strategy about how to help them scale. And, one of the questions I asked them was, did they already purchase an investment property? And it was like, yeah, I actually did. And it was actually a good property. It's cash flowing. I'm making around $400 a month in cash flow. And I was like, awesome. So why aren't you getting the next one? It was like, well, my money's trapped. Then I was like, well, you actually bought a bad deal. It's like, well, how's that? I'm cash flowing. I got money in my pocket. Now I just need to figure out how to get to the next property. Well, you messed it up because you bought a property that is just giving you a cash flow. The whole point, if your strategy is to scale, is that you need to recycle your capital. You trapped your capital because you put money in there to raise the rent, but you didn't put enough money in there to raise the actual value of the property so that you can go to a lender and pull that money out. So that's, again, the difference between, I feel like, a regular agent and, me being your real estate investment broker, is that I'm working with you to understand the strategy of what you're trying to accomplish. Because if cash flow is not your, is part of your goal, but it's not your main goal, because you want to scale, because you want to get to 40 units, well, and you want to get to 40 units in the next, 5 to 7 years. Well, if you bought one property and now you're sitting and waiting, you just went against your business plan, because your whole point of, purchasing that real estate investment property was to not only get cash flow, but force appreciate it so you can pull cash out and then go get the next deal. And so hopefully this week's presentation will provide that. I'm switching it up a little bit. I'm gonna do a little presentation because I want people to better understand how I'm analyzing deals. So I want to kind of come up with different concepts every week of the different aspects of the calculator and how you analyze deals. So this week is going to be about the property walkthrough system. I'm a big person on systems. That's what makes the difference between, an investor, what I call real estate investors, an investor who invest in real estate, and individuals who want to be investors, right? Most people who are not pulling the trigger, most people who don't know what they're doing, don't have systems, and then they don't know how to react. They don't know when to make a move because they don't know what should trigger it, right? Everything is a system, everything. And because we're trying to run a business, you need to have a system in place so you can run your business. And so if you don't have these things in place, then you're going to have these situations where you don't know what to do because you don't have triggers in place to let you know, like, oh, this thing happened, I should do X. So part of understanding that, again, for me, I want to say 90% of the deals that we're looking at is going to facilitate in a sense of a value add perspective. And when I say value add or the BRRRR method, it can go for either a fix and flip or the actual BRRRR method, right? And in the BRRRR method, you can be a house hacking, or you can be something you just bought, added value to, pull that money out, keep that asset, and go get the next deal. Or the same concept is I buy something, fix it up, and now I'm selling it. But at the end of the day, I'm still getting this lump sum of money back. Obviously, for a fix and flip, I should be getting more back, right? So if I put 50,000 in a fix and flip, the goal is to probably get 70,000, if not 80,000 back, right? So now I recover my 50, and now I got 20 to 30,000 on top of it to go get the next deal. With the BRRRR method, you kind of change it a little bit, because if I put 50 in it, I should have added value to it, but I might only get 40,000 back. And you're like, well, how's that? Well, because I put 50 in it and now I got 40 back. That means I get to reuse 40,000 of the 50 I put in, but I keep the asset. So you see how that might change, where if I, sold off the asset, I should get, double, right? So I said in this situation, I got 70 or 80,000 if I fixed and flip it. But if I BRRRR it, I might only get 40,000 back because, I was only able to raise it so much. The bank is only give me 75% of that value. So I got a nice chunk of my money back. I think a lot of times some investors get conflicted because they think they should have the same results in both situations, right? If I do a fix and flip, I should get 80,000 back. If I do a burr, I should get 80,000 back. And I disagree with that because it's not always going to happen that way. And because the bank or the lender is only going to give you 75% of that value, it's going to be hard to always get all your money back plus a little bit on top of it. But if you can get a nice chunk of your money back so you can go get the next deal, I think that's ultimately the goal you're looking for. So when I'm walking through the stuff, like some people, like, well, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what something costs. One of the things you should be doing is reaching out to contractors, right? You should be reaching out to a plumber. You should be reaching out to a window person, a siding person, an electrical person, an HVAC person, a roof person, a structural person, so that you can start understanding what some of these things cost if something's wrong, right? Because you're not always going to be able to get these individuals to come out to the property when you're trying to analyze it, right? Because what I'm talking about right now, we should have analyzed the deal. The deal kind of, makes sense already, right? The numbers make sense. Now I need to go and actually look at the property to verify that it meets the criteria. So during the acronym of Aspire, so Aspire is our mastermind group, and from that, I created our Aspire calculator to help people analyze deals. I felt like we needed something for our group to help people, right, create a system of how they analyze a deal, right? And so Aspire became that acronym for us so that we are able to teach a system to our members so they can better analyze deals. So A is for address. That is, what are we at? What are we analyzing? What is it, right? I'm addressing 123 West Center Street. It is a duplex and I am going to burr it, right? That is, you should have some frame of what you're trying to do with that property when you are looking at it so you can truly analyze it. S is for seller. What is the seller situation? Who is the seller, right? Is it a distressed seller? Is it just a regular seller? Is it an LLC? Is it the bank? Is it the city? Who is selling it and what is their situation? P is for price, price assumption and price, asking price, right? What are they asking? And then what are your assumption of this? Hey, I think I need to buy this at this price based on what I think so far. They're going to be like, hey, this is the price I want. And this is how we can get a deal done. Those are not always going to line up, but you need to go into the situation with that understanding of what I think it should be and where they are. So if like, hey, we're $100,000 off, that deal might not be working, right? And then I is for improvements, right? And that's kind of what we're going to be going over today. But improvements is, the scope of work. What are we trying to accomplish? This is the most important part to me. And that's why I feel like contractors and, the individuals that help improve the property are the most important people because they are what helps you build your business, right? They help you grow. They help you do all those things. So what is the full scope of the property, right? What is the realistic budget? And you got to always have a contingency, right? You always got to have, I think I'm going to be spending 50,000. Well, I always do 10%. So I got to put 55,000 away for the deal that I'm, the improvements that I'm trying to do. And, do you have contractors to get the things done? And, and what rehab timeline can you get these things done as well? And then R is for revenue, right? So if it's a burr, what is going to be the future rents, right? What is the current rents now? What can be the future rents? And then if it's a fix and flip, what is the ARV? What do I think we can sell it for, right? And the ARV is in both situations, right? And that's after repair value. I need to know the after repair value in the fix and flip, and I need to know the ARV when it's a burr, because that is what the bank will probably, base their number off of what they're going to give me, right? That's what I hope their appraisal comes back in so that I can pull that money back out. And then E's for exit, right? Again, I have a thought of what I think the exit should be, right? I'm going there, hey, I'm going to burr this. Well, By the end of it, you might like, well, I need to just fix and flip this. I always kind of bring up recently what one of my clients did. Big shout out to Jonas. We looked at a deal. We thought it was going to be a fix and flip, but I gave him two exit strategies: was the fix and flip and the burn method. Well, the market kind of shifted on us, and so he felt a little bit uncomfortable. So he was like, "Hey, let's just burn this." And so he didn't get all the money he would have gotten out if he did the flip. He got some of that money back out, but he was able to get some of the money back out, get some rentals in there, get a nice cash flow, and get a nice chunk of his money out to go start looking for the next deal. So there's 7 systems to evaluate. Kind of went over there a little bit, right? The 7 systems determine your rehab budget: exterior siding, windows, roof, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, and structure, right? If now are there other things in there that can deal with a lot of stuff, right? Plumbing. Um, you could be different things like a water heater, right? Um, electrical structure, right? All these are different things that come in. And I feel like if you focus on these 7 things, you pretty much are going to have a good rehab budget if you start looking at the things you need to accomplish based on these certain things. Now, obviously, like flooring is not in there, but the floor plan, that's structure, right? So so we lump some things in here that you might not think maybe, right? Structure, you might think just foundation, right? But the floor plan of those things, right? How we're going to go in there. Plumbing, right? Cabinetry is not in here, right? But these 7 are the major things. Everything else is kind of cosmetic, right? These are the things that at the end of the day, they add value, but they don't, right? These are things that people expect, right? I expect having nice siding on the outside. I'm not necessarily going to pay you more, right? I like the appeal of it. It might be like, hey, yeah, me paying 1,500 for rent here makes me feel better about this, right? Me spending 300,000 on this house makes me feel better because I like the siding. The siding is appealing to me. But someone's not going to pay you more just because the siding, right? The windows are windows, right? People are not going to necessarily pay you more for their windows, right? The roof, you better have a good roof, right? I'm not going to pay you $500 more in rent because you put a new roof on, right? So these are the systems that need to maintain your property for the long haul, right? These are the essence of your property that if these are taken care of, you're going to have a long-term asset on your hands, right? All the other stuff is cosmetic. Obviously, we want to spend the majority of our budget on the cosmetic things because that's what people pay for. People are not going to necessarily pay for these things, but they are so vital that you need to make sure that you are paying attention to these things because these can make or break a budget. Again, siding, some of the things that you're looking for, right? This is where I suggest all to my new investors. When you have your home inspection, if you can go to it, because these are where you can ask some of the questions to get better understanding of things that you need to look for, right? These are things that allow you to better understand what you're trying to accomplish. What are things are wrong, what to look for, right? You don't have to go to all the inspection. Half of my clients are out-of-state investors, so they get the inspection report in a PDF form that they have to look over. So they are not always there to be able to ask certain questions. Because I'm doing multiple deals a lot of times, I'm not able to always go to the home inspections. And trust me, I've been through my fair share of inspections. But here are some of the things that you can ask, for those things. And then some of the things you want to watch out for, right? Interior siding, is there multiple layers, rotting out? Is there a mismatch, right? We're looking at a property right now with one of my clients, and we're closing, and part of the siding is a different color, right? That's something that we need to take care of. It just makes it more appealing when someone's there, right? It just makes someone more feel like it's their home. Are all the windows present, right? Windows, you want to look and see, okay, are these windows that I can deal with? Do I need to update them? Milwaukee and the southeastern Wisconsin, we do have a very old supply of homes here. So like a lot of these things you need to take care of. And a lot of these, I would say personally, a lot of investors don't get these things done, and then they pass the buck on to the next person, and eventually these things need to be taken care of. And the longer you wait on them, the more expensive they will be. So if you're going to be holding something for the next 7, 10, 15 years, the sooner you take care of these things, the better off you will be. Question to ask about the roof, right? Most of the times you can't see on the roof, right? And these are going to definitely happen during the inspection. But if you can have a drone and bring that with you, obviously that will help you see some things. Sometimes people bring ladders with them. The more contractors, investors that I work with, they'll already have their ladder and they'll come and look at stuff. Obviously, there's certain angles that you can kind of look at the property and see part of the roof, and you can tell if there's 2 layers on there or more. Obviously, some of this stuff will be answered when you have your inspection. I always suggest you always get an inspection, even if you're doing a fix and flip. There's just things you might find out. Obviously, some people are like, hey, I'm doing a fix and flip. There's no reason for me to do an inspection because I'm going to replace everything. If it's a full gut rehab, yeah, there's no reason to do an inspection at that point. Electrical, again, these are things that are behind walls. You're not always able to, really understand what's going on with those things. But obviously, the better you understand it, better you get some knowledge, the better, you work with a electrical person that can help you understand these things and what to look for. It just helps you be able to provide a better analyzation for your rehab. HVAC, furnace, obviously, again, important thing, especially in Wisconsin. You want a working heater. So in our cold months that we have here, and then even with HVAC, because it gets hot here, right? And a lot of people want an air conditioner. The days of having your air conditioner unit in the window, a lot of people don't like those things, especially I would say an investor. Because they drip water, and those things drip water, drip water, drip water, and those things eventually erode. They darken siding, especially if it's brick and it's been dripping water on that same spot every summer for the past 5 years. It's gonna have an impact. Plumbing, again, one of those things that is behind the walls, you can't always see, right? You might go into a situation and say, oh, we only need the bathroom is only going to be a $3,000 upgrade. Well, you open up a wall and boom, now it's $7,000, right? Because now you got to replace piping, you got to replace some stuff. There's a leak there, there's some mold behind there. Again, plumbing is one of those major things you have to look out for, especially with active leaks, because it creates mold and it creates damage behind the walls when you can't see them. So these are very important things that you have to take in consideration. Structure, right? This is critical, right? And this is probably one of the areas where I have to help change the mindset of my clients, because majority of my clients have a retail mindset, and if something's wrong with the structure, they want to run away from it. And to me, structure, it can be fixed. Everything about our home can be fixed. It's just is the cost worth it, right? At the end of the day, a house was built, right? A house isn't just there, right? And it can never be anything that, like, everything in a house can be fixed. Now, structural walls, right? Cement is bending in the wall, and there's a tree outside and the roots are getting down, right? You can remove the tree. You can put bars up against that wall and keep it structurally sound. You can excavate that part of the side out, rebuild some wall. All things are fixable. It's just, is it worth the fix, right? At the end of the day, that's it. Foundation issues do tend to be the most expensive because it is the structure of the home. Most of the times it does affect a fix and flip more than it does a rental. I would say more renters are more okay with, a bar being in the basement that's keeping everything, structurally sound. It does, like I said, it scares off more retail individuals when it comes from a foundational standpoint. But obviously, if you get it fixed and it's, there's insurance and, warranty and all those things, that makes people feel more comfortable. However, it is one of those things that might scare off people. So from a fix and flip standpoint, You have to be a little bit more considerate of it because it might affect the resale value on the back end. However, I never run away from it if I'm going to keep that property from an investment standpoint as a rental. And I think most investors moving forward feel the same way. So it's more likely you can sell it to someone else in that situation. So the walkthrough process, right? When I walk through, this is kind of the system I have in place. Again, let's have systems, right? Have systems in place. I kind of do more video than photos, right? Again, because I work with a lot of out-of-state clients, I tend to more go through videos and then take pictures of stuff that stand out to me so that they can focus on. But have a system in place for these things, right? You should and do it in a chronological way, every way, right? So that um, when you grow your business, right? Because an entrepreneurship is just you, but you should be growing a business where other people can assist you and other people can help you run your business. You got to have a same way so that when they step in and do it, they do the same way, right? So I start outside the home, do front, back, side, look down the street, do different things like that, walk around the property, look at foundational, look at the back, look at the garage and all those things, take his pictures, and then go through the front door, walk through the house, do all those different things, right? It should be step by step, and you should have a system in place so that when you upload your stuff, you know exactly what you're looking for. And it helps you with even when you start working with other partners and that they know what to expect when you send them the file with the pictures and the video. So, organizing files, like, again, I feel like you need to have a system, right? And then if you have a system in place, these are the things that I kind of have in place for when I'm working with my clients so that everything's in order. We got your walkthrough photos, your video walkthrough, your rehab phase photos, your contractor bids, and your deal documents, right? Systems, right? Systems. You need to have a system in place because you're running a business. You're not buying a property, you're buying a business. So business need to have systems in place so you can run it properly. Walkthrough checklist, right? You should, hey, I'm doing this. Front out of the house, full front view, siding condition, cracks, roof, windows, sides, back, again, systems in place, checklists. So you know what you're doing, especially if you're new, right? You need to have systems in place so you know exactly the steps that you're doing, right? As a real estate agent, I naturally do these things, right? When I'm going to look at a property. You being an investor and maybe you being new, you don't necessarily know what you should be looking for. Well, have these systems in place so you know exactly, and then when you're looking at property A against property B and property C, you can analyze them effectively because you took all these steps to make sure that you understand what you're looking at, what is going to take to fix them, and how they can be improved so that you can add the value that is necessary to that property. When you're walking inside, right? Every room should have, I'm doing this, right? I'm looking at these things. I'm looking if there's any stains in the walls. I'm looking if there's any mold, right? One of the things that I always look at when I go into the bathrooms is to see if there's a fan in there. And if there's no fan, right, the ventilation, there's no exhaust. There's no way the moisture in that room is getting out besides the front door, right? And most bathrooms in Wisconsin has brick block windows, right? And so there's a little fan that or gaps in that window where things can escape. Well, you need an exhaust. Well, that's one of the things that you need to add, right? That immediately is going to add to that property and the longevity of it. And again, but it might not add value to the property, right? Someone's not gonna be like, oh my God, you added a ventilation fan, I'm gonna give you an extra $100 for rent. Like, that's not gonna happen, but there's a longevity in there, right? That helps their health, right? Because there's less likely mold in there. They're happy to be in that home because you're making sure that bathroom is working at its highest level because you are making sure that mold is not in that property. Sorry for all that noise in the back. If you do actually hear it, I'm across from the airport, so putting it into Expire, right? So we're getting at the point where I'm going to run analysis. But as you walk through the property, right? Again, to me is one of the most important parts of analyzing a deal, right? Because it is the value add, right? Because if I'm buying something at 100,000 and I need to put 50,000 into it, and my ARV is 150, that deal doesn't work, right? That deal might work if you are just a a buyer who wants to live in that area and wants to improve that house and make it look and feel comfortable for you. That might be ideal because now in the next 2, 3, 4 years, that value is going to go up even more, and I can wait for my appreciation. But as an investor, that's not a good deal for me, and that's just because that's based on my strategy, right? It doesn't make it a bad property. It doesn't make it a bad deal. It just makes it not a good deal for my strategy, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get mixed up, and I think that's where a lot of people make bad choices because they get caught up with it being a good property and thinking, well, it's a good property, so I should buy it and move forward with it. But that if that's not your goal, if your goal is to scale and you buy it at 100, you put 50 in and it's worth 150, cool. Now you got to leave all that money in there because even if you go refinance it, you need to pull some money out. You're only going to get 75% of the 150. So again, you're just going to get all the money back out that you need to put back and pay back. Now, again, I said earlier, you might not get everything back, right? But in this situation, you're going to get less of what you put in there, right? You're not going to even get close to the amount that you put in there. So again, in this situation, it probably needs to be 200,000, right? And then I'm going to refinance it at 140 something, right? It'd be 150, right? So 200,000, 75% is 150 roughly. I think I'm calculating that correctly in my head. So now I got all my money back. So that makes it a good deal, right? That makes it a good deal because now I get all the money I put in there back. Now, again, maybe it's 185, right? I'm getting a little bit less. That's still a good deal, but if it's exactly at the amount that I put the money in, that's not a good deal. So again, when you walk the property, you want to build your scope. You want to get a contractor input, right? Because I'm not a professional contractor. I try to get those on my team. I try to get them to come out with me when I'm going through deals, so that I get experts, right? Again, real estate is not a single sport, right? It's not a single player game. This is not tennis. And even in tennis, you still have a team, right? We just don't see them on the court with a person. And I think that's how in real estate investing is. We sometimes don't see the team on the court because it's one person that's representing, it's one person getting the loan, it's one person doing the contract and all those things, right? But practice time, I have a coach, I have other tennis players that I'm practice with, all those things, right? And that's how real estate is, right? You need a real estate broker like myself. You need a private money or a lender. You need an appraiser. You need a contractor. You need a plumber. You need an electrician. You need a floor guy. You need a roof guy. You need a windows guy, right? Those are all people part of your team. They're just like I call independent contractors, right? They're your higher help, right? And those are the individuals that you bring in to help solidify your team in different moments, right? They might not be on your team all the time, but eventually as you scale and you scale, like you're gonna have these people on your team all the time. So live deal analysis. So let's get into a deal analysis. Let's change this. So this is the deal. So this is also a Aspire Beast Council calculator. This is also for the individuals that sign up to our 90-day program. You'll get access to this calculator to help you analyze deals, right? Again, this is just, I like to call funnels, right? This is a helper. This is not a be all end all. It just puts out the information that you give it. It is a tool, right? It doesn't answer all your questions. It doesn't solidify, right? I tell people all the time, when you're analyzing deals, that's on paper. It, you know, as soon as you close, the roof can collapse. Well, now your deal analysis is out of the window, right? Real life happens, right? But at the end of the day, the deal analysis should help you move forward, right? If the numbers make sense because of the systems I have in place, I should move forward, right? That's all that should do. It should say, I should move forward because based on my system, based on my numbers, and based on this property matching up with my numbers and my system, I need to move forward because it meets my numbers. All right, so I pulled a property. So I do like to let people know, because I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of Wisconsin. Um, I try not to run analysis on current deals. Uh-oh. I don't like running analysis on current deals because um, I don't want anyone to be upset at me because I'm saying they're overpriced or whatever. So I try to avoid that. Uh, and it just, you know, keep things simplified. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to drop um, MLS. So 914 West Walker Street. This is a 3-unit property. I'm going to tell it. This is the beauty of this. So I'm going to tell it information. The property we're going to analyze is 914 West Walker Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53204. This is a 3-unit. It's 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, each property, in each unit. The estimated total square footage is 3,667 square feet. It was built in 1893. Current condition, I think it needs to be updated. Recently was on the market. Please move towards S after inputting this information. So what I try to tell people why I like this calculator and why I advise people to use something like this and just instead of plugging things in is it tells a story. And that's where you really have to understand with analyzing properties is that it should be telling a story, right? It should be helping you understand that you are trying to put things together so you can better understand what you're trying to accomplish, right? And oops, let's move that over here. There we go. Can we? I don't want to maximize it. Let's try to see if we can maximize it. Okay, it's going to move me out of the way. All right, so oh well. So so you're trying to. So I like it because it tells a story, right? It's telling me the things that I need to know, and that's what it really is, right? It's just not pushing out numbers and then that's it, and then I don't know what's going on. And so like the better story I can tell, the better I feel comfortable moving forward with the deal. All right, let's figure this out now. Okay, the seller situation. Let's figure out the seller situation. All right, so we're going to get that. So it's asking for S&P. So this is what I'm going to do. Seller situation is currently asking for 214,900. It is owned by an individual. Currently on the market. Occupant status, it's fully rented. Current rents are 600, 800, and 900. Unknown about known violations of deferred maintenance. Estimated closing costs will be around 3%. Financing, we're going to use a DSCR loan, 15% down payment. Estimated interest rate is probably around 7% to 7%. Not going to be a flip. This is going to be a BRRRR. All right, so we did S&P. not the S&P 500. So now it's just giving me the information, right? We told him right now, based off some of the information, right? It's going through it, right? We know it's a triplex. It's just going over again. Like, this is why I like the calculator. It's going through. Council finds that existing rents are material below likely market levels. Right. Current income does not support DSCR financing comfortable acquisition terms. So it's already kind of letting you know, like, this is not looking good so far. There might be a deal there, but I don't know. And so the council does not support a flip, right? We kind of already said that this is the least likely situation. Wholesaling is definitely less likely situation, but creative seller restructuring and long-term hold and buy. Again, you might, like the other person, right? You might just buy it. You can raise the rents, and that's good enough if you need to buy it at that price, right? So we got some acquisition assumptions. We got an estimated cost. We got down payment. We got a loan amount so far. We got the interest rate. Now we have an estimated, debt service payment, and then gross rent right now is $2,300, which is, not ideal from what they're asking. Estimated operating expenses between 40 and 50% because it's old, and I agree with that. Estimated NOI is between 13 and 16,000. So the DSCR is already too low. So now we have to give it some information. Estimated rehab, I agree, is probably this amount. Estimated market rent is $1,250 to $14. Stabilized gross rent, project stabilization, NOI is $24,000-$30,000. Projected stabilized DSCR. Sorry about that. 1.1514. Preliminary ARV, stabilized value, right? So it's already kind of going through all the things because I gave it enough information. It's letting you know the maximal acceptable offer, right? This is the maximal allowable offer for this deal is 160 to 185. Current acts is ideally margin protection, right? So it went through it. Again, this is why I love this calculator. I gave it enough information. It kind of moved forward with it. It provided. We went with P. It gave us kind of R because it's letting us know what the rents are. I don't want to say kind of. It gave us R. It gave us I because this is their improvement right here, right? This is the estimated rehab, which I completely agree with. And then the return that we're looking at, and then the exit strategy, because we already kind of told it that it's going to be a BRRRR. It kind of already gave us the exit strategy. So this is the verdict, right? The council finds current in place income does not satisfy support DSCR leverage at the asking price. The council finds that asset age, unknown deferred maintenance create elevated capital expenditure risk. The council finds the acquisition basis lacks sufficient margin protection for a disciplined BRRRR execution, right? And so we do, there's 5 categories that we score. And these are some of the things that it looks at when it's scoring, right? The council supports that is a large unit, strong value add, fully occupied operational status, potential rent reposition opportunity, right? It knows that we can raise the rent, so that's what it likes about this deal. That's the ideal situation when you're looking at BRRRRs. What it's flagging is that the current low rents, right? So because it's fully rented right now, it's gonna be hard to showcase that the rents will cover the DSCR loan. So you might have a lot of DSCR loan lenders back away from it, or you might just need to put more down, right? Because I put 15% is liable, not the best outcome for this situation. You probably need to put 25% down. Again, I don't like that in the sense of not only are you using your own cash, but now I need to use my own cash to fix it up, right? I'd rather use it as a BRRRR and I'd rather use hard money to do that because then I can use hard money lending to buy the property and do the rehab. Again, reason why I love the calculator and the way we built it is to help our members, right? It's to help people who are starting off to say, okay, I did all this. Now, what do I do with this information? Well, okay, how would I improve this? Like, how would I go about this to make this a feasible deal, right? We don't force anything. And what I mean by we don't force anything is we don't say, oh, at current numbers, I'm going to make this deal work, right? That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, all right, what do I need to change about this deal to make this deal work? Because that's the most important thing you can do, right? So it's verified rehab scope, right? Okay, we said 70, 130. Can we get it down to 50, right? Can we spend 15,000 in each property, each unit, and improve it overall, the whole property, right? And then that gets us to 45,000, right? And then 10% on top of that, that's 50,000. So instead of us spending 70 to 130, we get it down to 50. Well, that dramatically changed that property and the amount of money we need to put in it to make it better. The rent comp, right? Can we get more rent for a 3-bedroom in that area? So right now, I researched it. It was saying 12 to 1300. I'm seeing that we might be able to get between 16 to 1800. Well, that dramatically changes everything as well, for that property. Also, um, we're not, we're not just depending on it just saying 12 to 1300. Well, in this area, we might be able to get 15 to 1800. That's a huge jump, right? And that changes a lot of things in here. So acquire below 180 all in before rehab, or achieve verified stabilized. So it's saying all in before rehab is 180. Can we get rents up to 4,200? So, and then again, this is what I really enjoy about this, is that it gives you 7 other things that you can do, like obtain full rent roll, right? These are things you can still move forward. Verify utility split is landlord just paying it all, and then that can we, you can go on still on showing, right? Inspect the roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, pull market permit and violation history, pull the room by room rehab budget with 15% contingency, underwrite refinancing using 75% stabilization LTV, retrade aggressively based on DSCR, right? So these are things you can still do to move forward. And then again, this is why I really love it, because now it's telling you this is how you can make this a deal, right? If you are able to get this under 175,000, then it's a deal. We push the projected score to 82, right? If you can get the rehab to under 60,000, right? And then get rents up, right? Seller financing structure 5.5%. Can we get our interest rate a little bit cheaper? Can you work it out with the seller to say, hey, can you fix up those properties and I'll give you your amount, your number, right? These are other ways where you can analyze and get better outputs from this property, right? And so it's just not just accepting the current situation and seeing how can we make a deal, because at the end of the day, if you're a great investor, that is what you want to do. You want to put a deal together. Everything is not just going to be given to you and presented to you on a silver platter, and you just say, oh, they offering 100,000. They know I need to put 70,000 into it. That's why they're offering 100. Let's just make the deal happen. That's rare, right? You sometimes have to convince the seller that they're wrong, which is a lot. And show them why they're at the wrong number, right? So again, we just kind of went through that. Obviously I didn't break it down per thing from that standpoint, just giving you a summary of the things that we're looking for, right? In this situation, we said between 70 and 130,000, right? We can pick each one of what would take the most for that. And again, majority of the time, what you want to do is use majority of your rehab budget for the cosmetic things that needs to get done, right? These things are great for definitely for fix and flips, but definitely for if you're going to hold on something for a very long time. These are important things that you need to get done, so that you can stabilize that property and don't need to worry about putting so much money away for these things, because they're gonna fall apart eventually. You already have those things fixed, and so now the things you're just worrying about is the cosmetic things and anything your tenants mess up, right? So our takeaways, right? Every BRRRR deal must pass the walkthrough before you run Aspire I, right? You need to um, run your analysis, expect what you think you need to spend on that. And then, if it fits it before, then, as you run it and then you go and look at the property, you can actually, break it down even more, right? 7 systems that you're looking at, right? And these are, like I said, these are not the cosmetic things. These are that make or break a deal, because 9 times out of 10, people are not paying for this. Even fix and flips, right? They want plumbing up to date. They want good foundation. They want an HVAC system that works. They want updated electrical. They want a good roof, right? They want newer windows. They want a good siding. Yes, those are things that someone, kind of expect, that they feel like is already baked into the number, right? They're not gonna necessarily, oh, you got a new roof, let me give you more money, right? They're kind of like, well, that should have been done, right? So they're not gonna necessarily pay for more of these, but these are the things that break your deal, because people are not gonna pay more for these things. Have a system of how you're walking a property. Just don't walk a property. If you're just walking a property and you don't have a system in place, you're doing yourself a disservice. And then that's why you can't make a decision, because you're all over the place, right? And so have a system in place, and how you document everything and how you file everything away. And your rehab budget is only as accurate as your walkthrough, right? Sloppy walkthroughs produce deals that eat your profit. We do give you a checklist. We do, have a contractor at work, and that's all through Aspire. That's all through the RTS execution system that I help run. That's a program on top of everything that we're doing. That is a program that I offer to my clients. It is a $2,500 buy-in for that, but you do get, so many things on top of that. You get access to Aspire. You get access to my contractors. You get access to me and having a strategy call, capital call, access to my private lending, private funding, all the above, right? There's so many things. It's about basically a 7,400 value that I give to my clients for 2,500. And, we also work with them on doing month-to-month payments, 3 payments of 850. But again, these are the things you need to do to ensure that you have a system in place for the things that you're trying to accomplish, right? Again, you can reach out to me. Don't go to that website. Sorry, we're still underway with that one, but you can reach out to me if you are still wanting the RTS walkthrough checklist. That is a free material that we offer to our clients and everything else. Again, thank you for being a part of this and showing up. Again, Aspire is a great acronym if you are struggling with how to analyze the deal. So A is for address, asset. S is for seller situation. P is for purchase price or purchase assumption. I is for improvement, investment. R is for revenue, either for fix and flip, your profit, or your cash flow with your revenue with the rental. And E is for exit. And there's 5 exits. You can do a buy and hold, you can do BRRRR, you can do fix and flip, creative, seller financing, and wholesaling. So all those things should help you frame the deal that you're looking at so you can better analyze it and know how to move forward. Again, I want to thank Next Home My Way for allowing me to hold this webinar at our headquarters across the street from the airport, 5151 South Howell Avenue. Thank you again for allowing me to use the social media room where I'm allowed to put this webinar on and have access into all the cool gadgets that I get to use to put on this webinar. Thank you again, Next Home My Way, for that. And obviously, I am with Raise the Standard Real Estate, your real estate investment broker. Again, I want to thank everyone at Aspire, the team that has been putting this together. Please reach out to us. We have our monthly meetings the second Wednesday of every month. We just had ours last week, Wednesday. So the next one is in June. June. Let me see if I can do it real quick. June 10th. June 10th is our next meeting where we will be having a speaker, Bill from Victory Title, the owner of Victory Title. He will be speaking at our meetings, letting us know how the title process goes and, the actual process of, getting the deed in your name and how that process goes. This is, I would say, where a lot of people can ask about wholesaling and how that process goes, because it's not going through the typical transaction process when you have 2 agents on the side and you have one person who's, for sale by owner, and then you have an investor who typically has an agent to get this transaction completed. Again, thank you for joining. I appreciate you showing up every week to learn a little bit more how to analyze deals, and so that you become the investor that you are hoping, praying, and desiring to become, right? You're aspiring to become, you're aspiring to have financial freedom. And it starts here, right? It starts on the ground level of analyzing deals, because that's where it starts, is analyzing deals, and then you move forward. So here, Charles Anthony, your real estate broker, here with another bright idea.